So, in today's video, we'll be talking about a question that I'm sure a lot of people would have experienced or would have thought about at least once in their relationship, or even if it's a new connection, right? A question about whether the person that you are with needs space or whether they do not want you, right? These two can be very different in the way that they show up, right? And I think the reason why I chose this topic for today is that recently my sister and I ended up finishing watching Sex and the City serial again. And I think one question that kept going on in our mind was that why is it that Carrie ends up having like thinking so much as to what big Mr. Big and her relationship is, right? Like even after he does end up giving her some sort of clarity as to yeah, they are in a relationship, he does still end up behaving in certain ways that still make her question about where the stance in the relationship, and does make her question about whether he really wants her, right? There's always some sort of ambiguity that surrounds their relationship if you end up seeing. The reason for choosing this example is solely because to understand that there are a lot of times that we also end up experiencing certain similar types of situations in our own lives, right? Like I'm sure it's not as dramatized as Sex and the City ends up showing it, or any other sitcom, any other serial or sitcom ends up showing it, obviously. But it can show up in a very similar way as well, right? And it can lead us to end up questioning about whether the person genuinely needs space or whether they are not interested in us. So we'll be talking about 6 ways in which we can understand the difference. Wanting space in a relationship is a very common and natural thing to have, right? And that does not automatically mean that if you need space or if a person asks you for space, that means they are not interested in you, or that the relationship is now doomed. Rather, a healthy amount of space is what gives the connection to grow, give time to nurture and develop in its own way, right? You can love someone deeply and still want some time apart wherein you explore your own hobbies, or you try to introspect about certain aspects of the relationship, of where it is going and how you can make some certain better choices in order to develop or nurture the relationship, right? So a healthy amount of space is always good, and that is not something that is being discussed here. The crux is that how a person ends up communicating that space, and how or what they end up doing after that space is given, right? Someone can ask you for someone can say that they need space and then end up coming back, but sometimes they can tell you that they need space from you and never you may and never end up hearing back from them, right? There are two possibilities. So that's why it is very important for you to know the behavior, like observe the behavior that happens before, after, and like during and after the space is given, and how it is communicated. Sometimes when two people are together and they are in a connection, it's very natural that sharing aspects of themselves that they wouldn't have shared with someone else, right? And there can be moments where they get intimate, and they share a sort of intimacy that they feel has like is very pure and genuine in the moment, right? And during that time, sometimes the natural response for a lot of people can be distance, or them asking them pulling back a little. If you've not experienced genuine intimacy or genuine support or genuine presence of someone, and if you experience that for the first time, sometimes you can feel the need to pull back in order to introspect if it's real or if it's genuine, or question their intentions as well. I'm not saying it happens with everyone, but I understand that it is very subjective. This experience can be very subjective. So and also this is not like the best reaction to have after being intimate, or after talking or sharing something intimate. And that's why it's important to know when they seek distance and observe how they end up coming back. After they do pull back from the connection, or do try to get some space, the likelihood is that the person who's interested in you is likely to come back after a few days, and they are going to have a discussion with you, or they will at least try to make an attempt to let you know as to why they did end up pulling back. Maybe they won't have a perfect answer for it, but they will end up having an imperfect version as to why they did end up pulling back or trying to have some distance. Now, if you end up comparing that with a person who is not interested in you, they will simply reconnect with you because you have messaged them first, or they will also always end up texting you when you end up texting them first, right? You'll have to observe the pattern that you are the one who's always initiating here, right? And even the return pattern, that they do end up returning because you have kept the door of communication open and they are simply walking through that door. It's not that they have actively tried to knock on the door and then ask that can they come in, can they have a conversation. No, they simply let them in because they realize that you have opened the door and the door of communication is open, and that's why they should just walk and see how it goes, right? Sometimes they might not even offer you any explanation of why they ended up returning, or they will not feel the need to justify their actions as well. And there's very little or no attempt from their side to let you know, or even say sorry, apologize, or let you know how the distance affected them, etc. For a person who likes you and is interested in you and just wants some space, their baseline behavior would be interest, genuine interest, intention that they want the relationship, and but they just need a few moments of space in order for their own reasons, right? Now they might end up telling you those reasons maybe the time they ask you for space, or maybe when they return back. Most of the time they end up having like showing up in the connection and being intentional in the way their actions, like being intentional in the way they show up in the connection as well, or understanding that the way in which they act has a consequence, like has a effect on you as well, and that's why they'll end up being more mindful about the actions that they take as well, right? And that's why when they do end up pulling back or asking for space is when you will end up asking or being a bit alarmed, because you know that they have always like 95% of the time in the relationship or the connection they have been present, they have been consistent and present in the connection, and it's maybe that 5% where they say that they need some space. So it is natural for you to question about it, right? But they end up returning. Compare that with someone who is not interested. Their baseline behavior has been distance, right? And they will end up communicating or interacting sporadically, or as in when they think is the right time to talk. And as I mentioned in the earlier sections, they will not feel the need to justify their behavior or the way their actions end up making you feel. And they can become participatory and show interest as and when they please, or they and only when they feel that you are giving them attention, affection, or showcasing emotional intimacy with them. So someone might end up struggling with telling you that, hey, listen, I am feeling overwhelmed and that I need some space, or I just need some days for myself, but I promise that I can be back. Now there are a lot of people who do end up showing saying that verbally as well. That is a good thing, because the other person then knows that giving them that space will let them leave them to return, and that they do need some space for themselves, right? But sometimes people do not end up saying it directly or using that same exact sentence. Rather, they will end up telling you that they are feeling overwhelmed, or that they need a few days away, or that they are feeling overwhelmed right now, or maybe tired, but they'll be back after some time. Or maybe sometimes they will not end up telling you that verbally also. They will just take that time for themselves, but they'll end up coming back after a few days when they have promised that they'll be back. And it is when they will end up trying to explain you what was going on, or the things that were going on, or how it affected them, right? Versus when you compare that with someone who is not interested in you, they will not feel the need to tell you about the reason why they are pulling away, or the reason why they need space, right? Or sometimes they will end up giving you very they will end up giving you statements that will just make you feel satisfied for the here and now, or make you feel sometimes empathize with them as well. For example, them saying, I'm just swamped up with work, I'm very busy, uh, you don't know how it is like for me, or they'll tell you that they are very busy right now, they just have too much going on, they'll deal with your issue later on, right? And sometimes you will end up noticing that right after they say that, they are still active on the other social media fronts, or they are active other places in their lives, right? And I mean, sure, them being active in other aspects or other streams of their life does not mean that they have that emotional capacity to deal or talk in the here and now, in the present moment with you. When this becomes like a larger consistent pattern, it is when you'll have to really pay attention to the dynamic. When someone genuinely likes you and wants to make sure that you are a part of their life, they will communicate the need for space, and they will make sure to stay true to their word, right? If they say they'll be back after one day, they will be back after one day. If they do say that they will be back after 2 or 3 days, and you will believe that they have consistently showed you, uh, like consistently, maybe maybe over a span of months or days or weeks, that when they say what they do, they will end up doing that, right? And that's the reason, when they do end up telling you that I need some space but I'll be back, they do end up coming back, and they do end up giving you that reassurance, or that reason behind that space, right? You don't have to keep thinking, or keep shrinking yourself, or keep overthinking about what their space means. Now, with the person who is not interested in you, so there is a possibility that they will end up pulling or pushing you away more, and that can lead a lot of people to end up in a very painful cycle as described below, to demanding for less of either their time, their affection, even their space, right? Which ends up leading to you reaching out a bit less, or you waiting more, or you waiting for them to text first and not initiating anymore, which leads you to wait more, or which leads you basically to thinking that maybe they need more time, maybe that you are being too much, or that maybe they have something going on, and you just need to be patient along with them. And as a consequence of that, you end up excusing their behavior, making justifying the distance, thinking that maybe if you had not they are not that expressive, they just had a rough day, etc., right? And sometimes that leads you to suppress your needs, or end up hiding your own feelings or hurt in order to not scare them away, because you knew that the last time you scared them away, they ended up giving you distance. So that's why you should not end up again attempting to do that, right? And finally, you end up asking for even less, because if you lower your expectations and even more, then you will convince yourself that it is easier for them to love. So there's a difference between someone giving you love and care and affection naturally, and someone needing you to shrink yourself, or adjust yourself, or trim yourself in order to receive that love, care, and affection. And only when you observe these patterns will you end up realizing the difference between these two. So a person who needs space will sometimes, you will end up experiencing that they are very slow in the way the relationship is progressing, or they are very slow with regards to labeling the connection, or very slow in the way they are proceeding with intimacy as well. Right now, a lot of times people do end up taking time with being intimate, with being open, with sharing a part of their life. But that does not mean that they do not want you to be a part of their life, right? And you will end up realizing that after a while, or after, if you look back in hindsight, you have realized that you know the person more than you knew them the first day, right? Because the connection is building somewhere, it is growing, and it is nurturing into something beautiful. It is imperfect, yes, but it is growing, right? Whereas when you compare it with a person who's not interested in you, the relationship is going in circles, right? It is just it is in the same gray area, and it is still leading you to be uncertain and question where the relationship is, as it was from the beginning, right? And you realize that you do not know a lot about the person, nor do they know a lot about you. Or maybe it can be that you know a lot about them, but they hardly make any attempt to know anything about you, which leads the relationship to be in a very unequal way, right? Because you are the one who's constantly giving, and they are the one who's only receiving, and there's no reciprocity in the relationship. Now, this is not for you to play games or to just check if they, when you leave them or when you stop initiating contact, do they chase behind you, or if they run behind you or try to make contact only when you pull back. This is a genuine effort for you to stop doing all the emotional labor, right? The main word to focus here is on all, not always, not often, all, right? If you are the one who has been initiating all conversations, then stop initiating that. Stop repairing every rupture, stop asking the questions they refuse to answer, and stop trying to create a closeness for two people. And then observe, does the relationship collapse completely? Does the person notice your absence? Do they reach forward towards you? Do they make an effort naturally, or do they, and do they try to understand what has happened? Now you don't need to like know the many reasons as to why a person pulls back or asks for space, or try to intellectualize or introspect from there for them as to why do they need space, or do they like you or not. I mean, there can be multiple reasons as to why a person might need space, or multiple reasons as to why they might act that way. It can stem right from fear of intimacy, past betrayal, past hurt, fear of abandonment, etc., right? But you are not the one who caused these wounds in the first place, right? Then why is it that you end up feeling the need that you need to heal these wounds, right? Because you can have compassion for them and you can support them in their journey and be there for them when they want you to, right? You can be an active companion while they are healing their own wounds. And you having that compassion for them does not dismiss your own need for safety or your own need for having that connection, right? Because you are also an important part of the relationship, right? A relationship takes two people's efforts and two people to show up consistently and clearly, right? And someone like a person who really likes you or who really wants to make an effort to show up in your life will always end up like showing up, right? You won't have to like run behind them, chase behind them, or try to understand where various past about them, or searching reasons as to why they are acting the way they are doing, because they will simply end up consistently showing them with their behavior and their actions that they are choosing you and the connection intentionally, right? Rather than someone who is not interested and who shows up sporadically and just shows up when you are the one who's initiating. So, my final takeaway with this video would be that don't let sitcoms or social media or even your own self convince you, or like ignite that hope that you will have to abandon yourself or abandon your own needs in order to cater to someone else, or in order to cater or nurture a connection. Because a real connection will never, genuine connection would never want you to abandon yourself. Sometimes the answer that you keep searching for is not really in these articles or in these videos that you end up watching. I mean, sure, they can give you a direction and they can give you some sort of hint as to what you have to look into or look forward to or pay attention to. The answer that you're searching for is already present in their behavior, right? And that's the reason sometimes you genuinely have to choose to really look at it and pay attention to the behavioral patterns and the long term consistent patterns that they end up showing you.